Hello, I'm Richard Jack Smith of Real Talk Movie Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing the music to Wild and Wonderful Denmark. Thank you to James Charles Taylor for making this review request. I quite enjoyed this score, I must say. I wasn't familiar with Peter Jew and Rasmus Zwicki, two of the composers that worked on this, but I was familiar with Anthony Lledo from his work on Legend of Chima. I've made quite a few notes regarding this soundtrack and I will share those with you now. Right at the beginning there's a three-note motif or theme which establishes grandeur and magical realism. You can hear this in The Fox's Cub's Struggle for Life. That's by Peter Jew. Curiosity and discovery are key words, forming pictures in the mind, while the music shades in hues and contours which symbolise wildlife in Denmark. In about 50 seconds, Spring in the Forests by Rasmus Zwicki demonstrates extraordinary variety in terms of tone, counterpoint and instrumentation. In fact, that's something that's very consistent throughout this score, as you will find out in a moment. The piano, woodwind and strings in The Owl and the Yellow-Necked Mouse felt magical. Indeed, there's a mood change around 1 minute and 25 seconds which felt seamless. I would say this is an elegant composition which is worth hearing again. Meanwhile, Autumn on the Heath was reminiscent of the sort of choirs that we normally hear in a James Horner soundtrack. Those expecting the angular drift or soul-stomping melodies of great classical music might be a little disarmed by the variations in tone here. For example, Starling Flocks in the Barn was utterly delightful, amazing woodwinds. Although there's some light dissonance in Autumn by the Stream, which comes across as filler. Then flutes and harp put a spring in your step during the Death Route. What we have here ultimately is 56 tracks across 2 hours and 12 minutes. I would have probably ended the score around Life Returns, but then there's still about 14 tracks following that. But the composers mostly keep the balance right. In fact, there are moments which feel like the feathers of sentimentality are just going to flap incessantly, and then they'll dial it back with dramatic contrast and excellent spaces for woodwinds. If you're a fan of woodwind writing, this is definitely a score you won't want to miss. And again, thank you James for bringing this to my attention, because I did not know about it until he suggested it. Also, The Cuckoo's Nest was eclectic in the way they balanced contrast and, as I said, those spaces for woodwinds. But by the time I got to Winter by the Stream, it felt like this was the never-ending soundtrack. Also, the dynamics between light and dark don't alter much. In fairness, The Grey Seal and the Sea was beautiful. Occasionally action music creeps in as well. Check out The Hazardous Journey of the Mallard. It practically bursts at the seams with runaway strings, adding to which the antlion was a gem. A good place to finish was Life Returns. And so ultimately what we have here happens to be a nearly perfect musical selection. However, there are telltale signs which prevent Wild and Wonderful Denmark from achieving the top rating. Firstly, the music didn't sweep me off my feet quite like Jotun by Max L. That's a game soundtrack. And especially the Leningrad Symphony by Shostakovich. That score changed my life, and I only heard that recently. Overall, I would say Wild and Wonderful Denmark just need to go a tad further in crystallising the themes, although there is some superb, as I say, contrast, counterpoint and variation to be heard here. Overall, I give Wild and Wonderful Denmark 4 out of 5 stars. There's plenty to enjoy in this far-reaching and expansive soundtrack. For more film and soundtrack reviews, please visit Betty Jo Tucker's website, Real Talk Movie Reviews. On Facebook you can find my pages, Hip-Notic Movie Reviews and Hip-Notic Soundtrack Reviews. You can also find me on Twitter at mbeanfan101. I am Richard Jack Smith, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.